Yo, what's up, y'all? Today we're talking about the acronym, the acronym JRPG. It stands for Japanese Role-Playing Game. It's it's an acronym that I really don't like. Most abbreviations in video game culture I don't like Metroidvania. I've said I don't like that abbreviation time and time again, but that will have to wait for another video. So back in the 90s, games like Chrono Trigger for the Super Nintendo, Super Famicom, Final Fantasy VI, Super Mario RPG. What kinds of games were these considered? Were they called JRPGs? No, they were just called RPGs. Look at this game, Super Mario RPG. It's not called Super Mario JRPG. So, having followed video game culture from the 80s up to the present day, I know when the JRPG acronym first surfaced. It was during the PlayStation 2, Dreamcast, GameCube, Xbox era. And that's when JRPGs really started flooding the marketplace, and it wasn't all good. In fact, I think that was one of the weakest eras of RPGs from Japan. So if you think about the golden age of RPGs from Japan, it was the 16-bit era. You had the Super Nintendo, and you had the 32-bit era with PlayStation 1. You had Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy 7, stuff like that. So, yeah, I can't really name an RPG from the PS2 generation that I really like. I guess I liked Tales of Symphonia, but I didn't love it. It didn't become a classic. A lot of the RPGs that came over from Japan during that era, they were kind of bad. So I think when I hear the word JRPG, it has a pejorative tint to it. It sounds kind of like an insult. Now, these days, I don't think people think of the acronym as an insult, but that's how I view it because it seems that way based upon how the acronym first came into existence. So, back in the 16-bit era, RPGs, the best, at least on consoles, the best RPGs did come from Japan. But slowly as game technology evolved and consoles became stronger, a lot of Western developers caught up. So the thing I don't like about the acronym is that it specifically targets one country, Japan, and there doesn't really exist an equivalent term for the opposite. So what is the opposite of a JRPG? Is it an ARPG, American RPG? No. ARPG usually stands for Action RPG. Is it WRPG? Maybe, but it doesn't really sound good. They're not opposites. So it's not like there's a term called ERPG, Eastern RPG, because that would make sense having a Western RPG and an Eastern RPG. But it's just Japanese RPG and the rest of the world, it seems. So that's one of the reasons I don't like the acronym. It just triggers me. What defines a game that fits into the JRPG category? Because if you take it literally, Japanese role-playing game, there are so many games that could fit into it. What about Dark Souls? It's an RPG developed in Japan, but would you call Dark Souls a JRPG? Most people wouldn't, because it has a very medieval European look. It's a very realistic art direction and graphical direction. The word JRPG is mostly reserved for games that have a stereotypical look about them. They might feature very Japanese anime-like characters and art direction. It's probably very colorful. Probably features team-based combat instead of single character combat like in Dark Souls. So I don't expect people to stop using the acronym JRPG. I just wanted to vent about it, and I feel like it doesn't really represent the genre very well, and I also feel like it's kind of racist or countryist. Of course, that could be me being oversensitive and over offended like usual, but My point is, you'll never catch me using the term JRPG. What I'll probably call, if I were to define Chrono Trigger, I would define it as a traditional turn-based role-playing game from Japan instead of saying JRPG. I really don't like terms that give excuses for people to be lazy in thinking and writing and talking. Well, thank you for joining me on another video. Have a great day.